What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. We got a fun rumor roundup on today's show across the National Football League, and we'll talk about whether or not the Browns could inject themselves into some of these national storylines going on. So let's get into our first segment of today's show, which is surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles pass rusher Haason Reddick. Could the Browns trade for Haason Reddick? Will the Browns trade for Haason Reddick? However you want to frame it, however you want to ask it. Giving it one burning head. I don't think it's fake news. I think there is some shreds of truth to at least the possibility of Cleveland trading for Haason Reddick. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me catch up to speed, and then we'll look at it through the lens of the Cleveland Browns. So Haason Reddick is entering the last year of a very team-friendly 3-year, $45 million contract where he has outperformed that contract by a mile, and he is seeking an extension. And I don't think that's crazy for him to think, right? 30 years old in September, and he's coming off back-to-back 10-plus sack seasons. Why wouldn't he want to have some long-term security? Now, here's where things get a little bit interesting. We first had Ian Rappaport say that the Eagles have granted Haason Reddick permission to seek a trade. And then we had Haason Reddick talk to Jordan Schultz from Bleacher Report, where he said, I never asked for a trade. I want an extension. And the Eagles said, well, we may have to look into trade options if they can't come to an agreement on an extension. My first initial reaction was the Browns don't necessarily have like a dire need to trade for Haason Reddick, but they also did trade for Zadarius Smith last year when not many people had that on their radar. They signed Okoronkwo in free agency. They drafted Alex Wright the previous year. They drafted Isaiah McGuire in this past draft. They had made some additions to the defensive line, specifically the edge position, and yet they still traded for Zadarius Smith. Why? Because we are learning every single year what Andrew Berry really values. And on defense, it's edge and corner. He is always making additions at those two spots. So I think that's why it gets one Bernie head as to why Zadarius Smith, why Haason Reddick could have a chance of coming to Cleveland. But ultimately, this is a contract dispute, right? Haason Reddick, like we just talked about, is entering the last year of his deal. He's been extremely productive. He wants an extension. It all makes sense. The Eagles, on the other hand, they have some bills to pay, right? Jalen Hurts is no longer on his rookie deal. A.J. Brown's on a monster contract. Devontae Smith is going to get paid soon. There are going to be some guys they have to let walk or trade before they let walk. So if the Eagles and Reddick are nowhere near on an extension, I could see Philly letting Reddick explore the trade option and trade the market and then see what kind of extensions he could get, because surely any team that trades for Reddick is also going to extend him very shortly afterwards. And if Reddick comes back to the Philadelphia Eagles brass and goes, these are the extensions I could get with these teams, well, kind of like Deshaun Watson, then Philly calls those teams and goes, all right, looks like you guys have a good idea and something in place of what you could pay Reddick. Now let's talk about trade compensation. Now, Haason Reddick, as we just looked at, 4 straight years, 11-plus sacks in all 4 years. You might not think Haason Reddick, elite edge rusher, but if you're just going off sacks alone, which we all learn that's not the only way to evaluate edge rushers, but it is definitely an important way, he's 4th in sacks since 2020. Trey Hendrickson 3rd. These are two guys that I just don't think that really pop up to the top of your mind as some of the best edge rushers over the last 3 seasons or so. Nick Bosa got injured, so that's a big reason why he's not right there with TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. But Haason Reddick, sneaky productive over the last 4 years. Now, what could a trade look like? Well, I think the Eagles want a first rounder. Why wouldn't they? He's 29 years old. He's got 1 year left on his current deal. It's a very team-friendly contract for how productive he has been. Why wouldn't they want a first? Fortunately, the Browns do not have a first to give. So this is the best I could come up with. A second-round pick. I'm sure the Eagles would want more, but this may be a situation where they ultimately don't get what they feel he is worth because not a lot of teams are calling or not a lot of teams want to extend Haason Reddick, but the Browns do. I don't think this happens because the Eagles want a first, and I think they should get a first, and they are going to be looking for a first, and the Browns don't have one to offer. But let me know, would you do this trade? Yes or no? If you were Andrew Berry, right now, gun to your head, would you part ways with this year's second-round pick for Haason Reddick? Just right off the bat. Don't be afraid. Get in the comment section and let me know. For me, it comes down to, at some point, we got to draw a line in the sand about no more giving up assets, draft picks. They trade away this second-round pick, 2024, 2023, 2022, 3 years, with not only no first-rounder, but also no second-rounder. That, maybe I'm being a pussy, maybe I'm just being cowardly, but that's just too long to go without having a first or a second-rounder. That's just too risky. It's just too risky in my eyes. So I would pass. Let another team do it. I'm sure it'll work out well for them. But the Browns got to start getting some cheaper talent because they can't pay everyone, right? So for that reason, I'm passing. Okay, moving on to our second rumor. Are some extensions coming soon for Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry? Yeah, 4 Bernie heads, baby. Believeland. It's happening. Stefanski and Andrew Berry both signed 5-year contracts when they joined the Browns. Those are expiring soon. And after the tremendous 2023 season where they won 11 games, got the 5 seed, despite all the injuries they incurred, I think the Haslams know they have a really good duo in Stefanski and Berry, and they want to keep them together in Cleveland. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's show and talk about those extensions, give me 60 seconds to tell you guys about Game Time. So if you are thinking of going to a local sporting event, whether that's a Cavs game, another NBA or NHL game in your area, or maybe a concert or a comedy show, really doesn't matter. Anywhere that sells tickets, well, use Game Time to get those tickets and then save $20 on said tickets when you download the Game Time app and use code BROWNSCHAT. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video, but if you are thinking on a last-minute trip or a last-minute excursion to a game, use Game Time because they've got the lowest price guaranteed for last-minute seats. So once again, download the Game Time app and use this code BROWNSCHAT for $20 off. I have put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Shout out to Game Time for supporting the Cleveland Browns Report. Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, Jeremy Fowler recently wrote a long article with what he's heard throughout Super Bowl week, and I wanted to share this little quote from it with you guys. Expect contract extensions to occur for Cleveland Browns coach Kevin Stefanski and general manager Andrew Berry sometime this offseason. Both have matching 5-year deals that are set to expire after the 2024 season. They performed well this past year to execute a playoff push, and all signs point to them being in Cleveland for the foreseeable future. I 100%, not even 99, 100% for Bernie heads expect and believe an extension gets done for Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. I don't think I really have to twist anyone's arm. I would at least hope not at this point. I understand that there is a division of Browns fans that are just so used and just grew up and all they knew was hate the coach, hate the GM, they suck, fire them, wash, rinse, repeat. I am here to tell you and check you out of that rehab and say, that's not normal. The rest of the NFL does not fire coaches as often as the Cleveland Browns did. So when you've got a coach that led you to the playoffs twice and won 2 AP Coach of the Year awards, you should extend them, right? Even if they don't have a Super Bowl in the first few years. Look how long it took Andy Reid to get his first Super Bowl, okay? Bill Belichick, people forget, like, it wasn't all roses in New England. There were some tougher times before that as well. So, 100% extend these guys. As for the timeline to do it, what's the rush? They're not going anywhere, right? Whether they do it tomorrow, the next day, the next week, the next month, I don't really care, and I'm not really going to read into if it doesn't get done soon, there's a problem. Today's a good day to do it. Tomorrow's a good day to do it. Any day this offseason is a good day to do it. But how confident are you in this Browns regime of Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, and Paul DePodesta? Scale it 1 to 10. 1 being you are just a pessimist and half glass empty kind of guy, and there is no way this is going to go well. I don't know what more you need to see from these guys. 10 being you believe this is the crew that can take home a Lombardi trophy as soon as next year. Let's move on to our third and final rumor today, a Brandon Aiyuk trade. That in the works potentially for the Browns? I'm going to give it one Bernie head. I do think, similar to the Haason Reddick trade, it's not a 0% chance. And a big reason why it's even getting one Bernie head, I'd actually even put it like 1.5 Bernie heads, is because we are dealing with Blockbuster Barry, Mr. Andrew Barry, who loves to make trades. But let me back up for a moment, because I think I got ahead of myself. Let's talk about why we're discussing a Brandon Aiyuk trade. So, after the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs, Brandon Aiyuk posted on his Instagram story, "Don't forget what got you there." A lot of times when athletes post stuff on there, I'll be honest, I have no idea what it means. I have to go to the comment section to figure out what that cryptic message means. But even this one, I understood pretty quickly, which is you had a second-team All-Pro receiver in Brandon Aiyuk who helped get you to the Super Bowl, and then he had, I think, 3 grabs for about 50 yards in the Super Bowl and was wide open in the end zone in overtime. So he is voicing some frustration of, how did we get to the Super Bowl? By throwing it to me. What are we not doing in the Super Bowl? Throw it to me. So he's upset, okay? Then again, I feel like the more diva, there's like a perfect ratio of diva to productive wide receiver. And you need a little bit of diva in your wide receiver. And that's what you're getting here. Now, his girlfriend, Rochelle, she hopped on social media and recorded a video of herself and said this: "Okay, this might have been the last day we touched foot on Levi Stadium. Me and Braylon," that's their son, "because we might not be out here next season." What? Okay. First off, Brandon Aiyuk had his 5th-year option pickup. He is under contract for 2024. The Niners are not going to release him. He's not a free agent. So the only way he's not there next season is if San Francisco trades him, which I don't think they are interested in doing. I understand that losing a Super Bowl the next couple of days, some frustrations are going to come out, and that's just somewhat of a, natural human instinct, but I am not letting what a girlfriend says on a Twitter video dictate the future of wide receivers in the National Football League. This is just an overreaction. But that wasn't the end of it. We also had Brandon Aiyuk's brother. I think it's just a best friend that's like a brother to him. He posted on Instagram with a whole bunch of stuff, and he even talked about going to Las Vegas. My theory on what happened is they all went to Las Vegas for the week, of course, had a great time. Who doesn't? And said, "We should live here." Yeah, that sounds like a fun idea until you think about the football season when you're ditching Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy to play with Aiden O'Connell and Antonio Pierce. What? No. Brandon, if you're watching, yes, it'd be really cool if the Browns traded for you. But you should not try and force your way out because of the way the Super Bowl went down. Like, how just greedy and instant gratification have people gotten where if we don't win this Super Bowl, I'm out. Dude, you've been in the NFL 4 years and you've gone to playoff games and deep playoff runs. Settle down a little bit. This is not a good time to force your way out. So that's what I would say if I was talking to Brandon Aiyuk. But the same thing happened with Deebo Samuel. Remember a few years ago, Deebo had a really good year and he was at a strip club, or not strip club, maybe. He was at some club. My bad. And he talked about, "I don't think I'm going to be the 49ers. And then he got an extension. Money talks. And I think ultimately money will talk with Brandon Aiyuk, and this will be water under the bridge because he put up a tremendous year. He averaged nearly 18 yards a pop, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns. He's got 15 touchdowns over the last 2 years, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He has been a growing weapon for the 49ers. San Francisco is likely going to find a way to keep him. The only way I don't think they find a way is if they decide we have to allocate funds to certain players. Aiyuk is not at the top of our priority list because we don't like the way he's been behaving off the field, right? The 49ers are that type of organization where they may favor the character side of things over the stats and the production, right? They seem like an organization where they go, no one's bigger than the 49ers. If you and your squad are going to go on social media and ask to go play for the Raiders, fine, we'll grant you your wish. We're not looking for prisoners. We're looking for volunteers. So I ultimately think an extension will get done with the 49ers. But if it does get to a point where he wants out and the 49ers are willing to play ball, I think this is what it costs you. It's next year's first. The 49ers are not taking anything less than a first rounder. They used a first rounder to get him. He has been very productive. And if he entered this year's draft, he's not leaving the top 16. Now, they may not get a top 16 pick out of him, but the Browns, we're going to have to unfortunately offer next year's first rounder because they don't have this year's first rounder. And now we're talking 4 straight years without a first round pick. So for those 2 reasons, not having a first rounder this year and equating it to 4 years without a first rounder and then having to pay Brandon Aiyuk, I don't think it's in the cards. But it is Andrew Berry we're talking about, so I'll give it 1 Bernie head. Okay, let's pick a card to wrap up today's show.
Feeling good this week. Feeling good.
Feeling good? You should see what Cullen comes up with. Cullen comes up with the most elaborate paths to his card.
Really?
Oh, yeah. All right, what do you want to go with?
I'm going to go King of Clubs.
King of Clubs. Give me 2 of diamonds.
Come on. Give me some Mardi Gras luck.
6 of diamonds.
Ah.
6 of diamonds. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come hang out with us. We will sign off, and we will catch up with you guys later. If you have not subscribed, consider going ahead and doing so. Lock yourself in for the best free Browns content.